Greetings, I'm Dike Rostant. Welcome back to the TTT News. The Filmakers' collaboration of Trinidad and Tobago announced the theatrical releases earlier this month, and to find out more, we are joined by directors Alexandra and Ian Harnarine, as well as Filmco admin and distribution assistant Mikayla Almandoz. Welcome all, Mikayla. We want to start with you, please. I know we are a bit behind the ball, but take us through the work of Filmco, specifically leading up to these two releases. Thank you.
Yeah, so Filmco, we're actually in our 5th year now, but we've been doing distribution for the past 3 years, since 2019. And so, with COVID especially, it's been mainly online distribution that we've been doing with streaming platforms. But now that everything is back and open, we've wanted to delve back into theatrical releases and, just very happy to bring local cinema to the public and to audiences.
And looking at that local cinema and bringing it, providing that access, Alexandra, I want to start with you, please. How did you find this subject matter? Give us an overview of The Forgotten Boys, please.
Absolutely. So The Forgotten Boys follows the stories of 3 young men connected by a prison-based debate team and English class. The concept came to me really while I was living in Trinidad, still working at TV6 as a content developer associate, and just seeing kind of in the day-to-day news, crime being reported on quite often. And in that, the narratives often are quite one-dimensional. We see a lot of kind of divisive and polarizing language around crime. And so I really wanted to bring a different kind of perspective, really highlighting underrepresented stories and allowing a new perspective to be showcased.
Thank you so much. And we're going to dive a little deeper into that when we return in terms of speaking with you, Alexandra. But Ian, somebody who is not necessarily underrepresented, we see him a lot, he's a polarizing figure. How did you decide, okay, well, you're here, party done, this is what we're going, this is the subject matter, this is our protagonist?
My film had actually, it was inspired by, or it got me thinking back in 2008. My grandfather was brutally murdered in Tobago, and when my family came to Trinidad to deal with it, I still have a lot of family in Trinidad, and when we were all trying to deal with it, a matter of days afterwards, we found, there was a lot of, I don't want to say confusion, but it didn't seem as if the crime scene was processed properly. The neighbors, they all kind of knew what happened, but nobody was willing to speak about it. And as a result, no one was ever convicted of the crime. So my family still hasn't had any justice for my grandfather. And 2008, as probably you all remember, it's like that's when crime was really starting to rise in Trinidad with abductions and murders and home invasions, all of these things. And I started to really pay attention to the crime situation in Trinidad. And as the years progressed, there was one person that seemed to be trying to do something about that, and that was Ian Allen. And so that's how I sort of came to know Ian Allen, was through his attempts or his vision of how to fight crime in Trinidad.
Did you find a bit of closure? You said no justice, but was it a little cathartic being able to go through that process? It seems as though you were provided so much access to him, and you asked the question: is he vigilante? Is he hero? And who likes him in terms of like criminals, the police, or the common man? What are some of the things going through your mind while you're trying to deal with the science and the art behind creating a feature like this?
That's a great question. I think, for me, Ian Allen is a polarizing figure, right? In Trinidad, there are people, it's 2 people. You either really love Ian Allen and you tune in every single day, or you find him questionable and you don't like what he's doing. And is he really affecting crime? Is he really making a difference in people's lives? And that polarization is a character, or is ripe for a character that I think is really interesting. And that's why I'm drawn to people that can really bring strong feelings out in people. And for me, it was like I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to see really what is he trying to do, but really try to understand him and his motivations for what he's doing.
All right, thank you so much for that. Alexandra, I want to ask you something a little similar, though, in terms of, did you find yourself changing along the process of this documentary? What are some of those things that you would have noticed that may have been a little different from the start to the end?
Absolutely. Just the physical experience of actually going into the prison and coming in with the kind of misconceptions or, slight resistance. A lot of my family was like, are you really going to do this? And I was like, no, I am. Getting there was actually way less of a intimidating process and experience. The young men who I was put in front of along with Debbie Jacob, who ran the debate team in the English class, it was actually an experience of really just being able to see them as human beings, these passionate men who were excited by the opportunity to learn and to be provided with a space that, oftentimes we think about restorative justice. We don't think about restorative justice. We think about just punishing people for things they've done wrong, but actually by people like Debbie, by providing these spaces, these opportunities for these young men to learn and be provided with that second chance, it really was a powerful experience. And I got in there and I was able to really just kind of shed all these stigmas that I had about people who have been in prison or are in prison, and view them as people who, want to learn, and once provided with the tools are capable fully of that reform.
Thank you so much. And it seems as though, Mikayla, either consciously or tangentially, this pairing may help provide a more holistic answers to questions that each of us may be having as individuals. But it also is impossible for everyone to go into the prison system, have these conversations, or everyone to have the kind of access to Ian Allen that Ian would have. So how important to you is it to have Filmco in the role that it is doing, providing access, holding up a mirror to ourselves for us to see some of the things that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah, watching these two films back to back, it's very interesting because they're both, tackling similar topics of, crime and justice, but from two very different point of views. And so there's something in there for everybody to see. And I think, for so long, we all want to see ourselves on screen. We all want to, see people who look like us and hear people who talk like us. And that is definitely one of our goals. We want to provide a space for the film industry in Trinidad to grow and to be as, profitable and as beneficial as it can be. You don't have to just go outside to get entertaining stories and to hear interesting stories, but we can find that for ourselves here. And it's a constant choice that you can see Trini films in the cinema and online. You don't have to seek it out. You don't have to search too hard for it. It's always there. It's an option because we are constantly creating and we have so many stories to tell. And it's just providing a space for people to do that.
And we want to talk a little more about those stories that we have to tell ourselves when we return. We're speaking with Mikayla Almandoz, Ian Harnarine, and Alexandra Warner. Stay with us. We'll return with more. Welcome back to In Depth with me, Dike Rostant. We are discussing two theatrical releases with Filmco admin and distribution assistant Mikayla Almandoz and directors Alexandra Warner and Ian Harnarine. Now, Alexandra, in terms of your senior thesis, I want you to break that down for me a little bit because the title is Storytelling as a Tool for Social and Political Change. What does that mean?
So I went to NYU, this kind of what you might call hipster program called Gallatin School of Individualized Studies, where I had the privilege of kind of creating my own degree. And essentially what makes me passionate about film is that it allows me to really speak to and explore social issues that I couldn't necessarily do through other mediums. For example, I also am a studio artist and I do painting. So storytelling as a tool, I think it's a really powerful universal tool that we see kind of translate through so many industries and spaces. And it's a way to convey our stories back to us and really have people kind of think and question narratives that we've grown up kind of learning, and allowing us to unlearn some things and narratives that aren't necessarily truly reflective of reality. And so that also sounds very kind of airy-fairy. But essentially Untold, which is the documentary series, so the Forgotten Boys was really the pilot episode for an overarching series that I was kind of conceptualizing. And the purpose behind that is to really just focus on narratives and people who don't usually have access. And so allowing them to see themselves on screen, and then also creating a space where we who have, some people of society who have grown up with more privilege and more access than others can have empathy for people born from a different class, from a different life, and really just connecting humanity on a level of from that place.
Thank you so much. And I don't necessarily consider it airy-fairy, but at the same time, sometimes I want to do a little full toss so that people can lag it out of the park. And Ian, in the same vein, I want to take that to you. How does that answer resonate with you and your journey? And I'll do the little make-out scene in the sense that you are someone who has a master's, if I'm not mistaken, in nuclear physics. Now, moving from that master's to dealing with doubles with slide pepper and party done. Take me through that process and that decision, and whether or not you find the medium of film something to be a little more fulfilling, and the reason for that shift.
And you know what the reason is? It's kind of what Mikayla was talking about earlier, right? Like, we're all looking for representations of ourselves and to see stories that mean something to us on the screen. And when I was studying physics, when I was in graduate school for that, I was going through a point where I just didn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. And I wanted to tell stories. I started questioning, why haven't I seen stories on screen that look like actually the people on this call? And I decided that I wanted to try to do something about that, and tell the stories of my culture, my family, and all of the stories that I've heard growing up, and try to make those into compelling stories that hopefully people will resonate with people around the world, if not even just locally within my own community.
All right, and does the work in physics impact or color your aesthetic at this point in time? And I say that thinking of Green Lanterns. There's one who was an architect, so his constructs would look a lot more architecturally structured. There was one who was a little more of an artist, so was able to go out of the box a little bit. What is your aesthetic like, and where do you draw from in terms of inspiration?
That's a great question. I think for me, my rigor, my scientific rigor, and the studies that I've done, it really helps me in terms of working with people. I mean, filmmaking, it seems as if, I know it's just me and Alex here, but I'm sure Alex will tell you there's a lot of people that helped her make her movie. There's a lot of people that helped me make my movie as well. And it's about collaboration. It's always about being able to communicate and work effectively with people. And that's something I learned in science, because that trope of the lonely scientist working in a lab is actually not the way science is done. It's a really collaborative form in modern ways. And so to work within a group of people with one goal is definitely something that I learned in physics. But I also learned about problem solving and how to solve problems. A lot of filmmaking, a lot about directing is just solving problems all the time. And that's a skill I definitely learned in physics as well, is how do you approach a problem from multiple ways and just trying to figure out the best way of attacking that one problem, which is directing, I think.
And I guess part of that might also be dying or killing that ego a little bit. So we're looking at this objectively. This is the issue, and this is what we're working to. But and let me ask you the same question, please, Alexandra. Your aesthetic, what it is you try to bring to the table, especially looking consciously at using storytelling as a tool.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think there is kind of, I call it like a fly on the wall kind of tactic in my filmmaking process, that I try to really just allow, there's no narration involved in my film. I really just wanted the subjects to be able to tell their stories and be featured very organically in their day-to-day life. So I think there's something really powerful about seeing these young men who you might have these misconceptions about because they're in prison, but you're seeing them being on debate teams, being with their families, having sons, and being with them in a sensitive manner that really allows a space to kind of shift those misconceptions and empathize with them as a general public. That I think is a really powerful tool that filmmaking facilitates.
Thank you so much. And Mikayla, if my father, the maths teacher, sees this conversation, he's going to be upset with me and say, son, I taught you how to divide into 3 a little better than that. So we have about 3 minutes, and I think the 3 minutes is you. Where do people see these releases? How do they contact you? How do they contact Filmco to engage with you a little more?
Yeah, so I mean, everybody can see both of these films at Movietown, Port of Spain and San Fernando. It's running until March 31st, so next week, Wednesday. And so there's 3 screenings every day. So it's 3 o'clock, 5:30, and 8 p.m. You can buy tickets at Movietown box office, and you can always come and check us out at our office in Belmont. And you can find us on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Filmco_TT. And, you know, we have a membership program, we do workshops. So we always want to hear what people are making and what people are doing and help out in any way that we can. So, you know, you can email us, you can call us, and you can find all our information online. We have a website as well, filmco.org. So yeah, you can check us out, and hopefully we have some more exciting news to bring up soon as well.
And we're looking forward to that. Thank you for that. But you started something. You said you're always excited to see what people are doing. What kind of things are you all looking for? Is there a certain amount of criteria you need to meet, a base level to say, okay, well, yes, we see that you have this already. We're willing to work with you. What are some of those things that you look at and look for?
Yeah, so I mean, we contact us if you're entry level to advanced, if you've made something, if you haven't made something. But in terms of distribution and what we look for, ideally a finished project with your poster, your production stills, your trailer. But we've had people contact us at the beginning stages of, we just have a script and we want to make this thing. What do we need? Because some people just don't know what materials you need to be eligible for distribution as well. So those are the main things. You need your trailer, your poster, your production still, and your film. But contact us and we can answer any questions that you have and help you out in whatever way.
All right, so we want to thank you so much, Mikayla Almandoz, Ian Harnarine, as well as Alexandra Warner for the work that you are doing and continue to do. And on behalf of the entire TGT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you for joining us.